Hi everyone and welcome. In today's video we're going to be making burger buns. These buns are really easy to make, plus they taste better than most of the store-bought ones. Without wasting any more time, let's get to it. To make this, start by adding the yeast. I'm using instant yeast for this recipe. I'll add some room temperature water and I'm just going to let this sit for about 1 to 2 minutes so the yeast can dissolve. Next, I'll add some powdered milk to give the bread a nice rich flavor, and then some granulated sugar. I'll also be adding some bread flour and salt. Using the dough hook in my stand mixer, I'm going to just stir this around for a few minutes until a rough dough is formed. And I'm using bread flour for this because it has a higher protein content, which gives the bread a nicer texture compared to regular flour. You can find bread flour at your local stores. It is also called plain flour in most open markets. If you can't get your hands on the bread flour, feel free to substitute with all-purpose flour. The second thing I want to talk about is the yeast. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm using instant yeast for this recipe. And this is the exact brand I use. You can also use active dry yeast for this. If you're using that, make sure the yeast is fully dissolved before adding the other ingredients. My dough has been mixing now for a few minutes and I haven't added the butter because I want the gluten structure in the dough to strengthen, and butter can inhibit that. After kneading for about 5 minutes, I'm going to add the butter and I'm also going to add the oil. I'm going to continue mixing this for a few more minutes until everything comes together. You can also make this bread without a mixer. Just follow the same steps and knead with your hands. And typically, if I'm using my hands to knead, I usually knead for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the dough is smooth. I also like to add the butter a little at a time when kneading with my hands, just so it's not too sticky. The dough is ready to be taken out. I kneaded for a total of about 8 minutes on medium speed, and I'm using a KitchenAid stand mixer. I'll put a link to the mixer in the description box so you can definitely check that out if you're interested. I'll transfer the dough to a clean work surface and I'm just going to shape it to form a dough ball. Transfer the dough ball back to the bowl. I'm just going to add a little bit of oil before putting the dough in. I'm going to let the dough rise for about 1 hour or until it's doubled in size. I like to cover with a cling film or plastic wrap because that helps the dough rise faster. I'll leave this in a warm place. I usually use a turned off oven or microwave. Just make sure that the oven or microwave wasn't recently used because that would be too warm. After about 1 hour, my dough has doubled in size. I'm just going to deflate this to release all the air bubbles. Next, I'm going to transfer this back to my work surface and I'm going to divide it into smaller pieces. This recipe makes 6 medium burger buns, but I doubled it so I'm making 12. If you have a kitchen scale, you can use that to measure the individual buns to make sure they are even. Shape each buns by rolling between your palm like this until you get a smooth round bun. You can also do this by just using your other palm. Just keep going in a circular motion until you get a dough ball. Transfer to a baking dish. I lined my baking dish with parchment paper so the buns don't stick. And make sure you space the buns really well so they have enough room to rise. If you have a burger pan like this, you can use that. I got this on Amazon and I'm going to put the link in the description box if you're interested. Cover the buns and allow to rise for about 40 minutes or until doubled in size. At this point, start preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Next, I'm going to prepare the egg wash. For the egg wash, I'm using 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of milk. Mix this very well until it's combined. Using a pastry brush, brush the egg wash generously on top of the buns. The egg wash will serve two purposes. First, to give the buns a really nice golden brown color, and the second is to act as a glue for the sesame seed which we're going to add later. If you don't consume eggs, you can use plain milk as a substitute for the egg wash. The buns won't be as brown, but it will get the job done. Sprinkle the sesame seeds on top. The sesame seeds, it's completely optional. You can skip that if you don't have it or if you do not like sesame seeds. The oven is almost fully preheated, and once it gets to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to put the buns in and I'm going to let this bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. After about 20 minutes, my burger buns are ready and they smell amazing. They are super soft, so I'm just going to transfer this to a wire rack to cool down. These are good for about a week at room temperature, or you can store them in the freezer for future use. Allow the buns to cool down completely before slicing. Let me know if you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions about this recipe, feel free to leave me a comment or send me a DM on Instagram. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.